Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Tevin from TCPixel, and today I'm going to show you guys how I did some of the effects on the realistic Zelda video that just recently released. It's going to be kind of a rough edge outline because I'm not going to show you guys exactly how everything was done, because obviously you need to have some prior experience with the programs to be able to get anything really out of it, but at the same time, you might just think it's cool to see how it was done, or maybe build some more appreciation for the actual video itself. That's what I really want to do, is build some appreciation, because this was 18 freaking hours of work, you guys. 18 hours of my life for maybe 200 people to see it. Without further ado, let's kind of jump in here. So starting with Adobe Premiere, I want to show you guys how much of these audio clips I had to use and how the audio was done. To start off things, I deleted the original game's audio, went and searched on the internet, got different databases of royalty-free sound effects or actual official Zelda sound effects, as well as some of my own sound effects, and built a complete soundscape consisting of 799 sound effects to a 2 minute and 30-second video. So it's actually what you're seeing is just tons and tons and tons of sound effects playing simultaneously. So that is this. As you can see, there's 15 different layers of audio. Normally I only need like 3, but there's 15, and you can see just wowzers. And as I scroll past, you're able to hear the different, turn this down a moment. You're able to hear the different sound effects being savagely played, and it's gonna crash again. Oh, lovely. I've opened this project 2 times now, and it continues to crash. Alright, let's jump over to After Effects, and I'm gonna show you how some of the actual visual effects were done, because that's really the meat of this whole thing. I guess the audio is as well, but what am I gonna show you guys? Each little baby individual audio clip? Oh, that's not interesting. I'm gonna show you guys how the cool stuff was done. This was kind of post-added on. I didn't anticipate to do this, but I kind of figured out a couple tricks along the ways, and I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's make this the best it can be. So there's this intro scene, you know, Link kind of wakes up or whatever, and he's all looking around, and then he goes in the old man cave where he's going to get his first sword. But in the actual gameplay clip, there's some new sand, there's some particles, some lighting stuff going on. So let's kind of look how that was done. To start off, there's a CC light sweep, which was a tool built into After Effects. I didn't do much with it myself, so that's kind of a preset. And then there was the linear color key. Now what the linear color key does is it lets you pick one color, or you can use like an ultra key and select a color plus some different shades of it, which are good for green screens. And I selected the tan ground color because this is such a simple game and there's not a ton of colors. I could use a simple basic tool like this. What that did, it said, alright, we're going to take this color, we're going to completely eradicate it, and we're going to leave a big hole right there. So ultimately what that did was that left a big black space in the background, and Link all moves around and it's just totally black. The cool thing about this, it's not just the color black, that is actually transparent. So what I did is I slipped a texture underneath of it, which is this really cool sand texture. And I slipped it underneath so that when Link's walking around, it actually looks like he's walking on some new sand. Like, that's really cool, because this is a video, not a game. This isn't programmed into it. This is a post-production. I took it a step farther, because once I separated the ground from the environment, Link was part of that second layer, which was the environment layer. And what I could do with him himself, I'll show you. I could apply a drop shadow to it. Now look how amazing that takes it. It takes it from a flat sort of style, a flat looking 8-bit style, and it adds this depth to it. This is just, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Like, it was just amazing to me that I could actually do this. So I did it, and I'm on a roll at this point, thinking I just discovered the new greatest thing in the whole world. And I took it a step farther, but before I even show you that, I added some particles. You know, there's something magical about particles. There really is, and especially in Zelda, kind of Zelda Ocarina of Time specifically. You know, you start out, you're in the Kokiri Forest, I think it is. There's those little bugs floating around, little light things. I don't know, but they were really cool. And that's kind of where I got the inspiration for these little particle things. All right, let's jump into a new composition. So you see how that was all started. I'm not going to go over every single composition, but I'm going to go over some significant ones. Next, let's show the old man's room. So this is the old man's room. Link, you know, talks to him. Actually voice acted this part in the new Legend of Zelda, and it turned out pretty nice. So in the new one, there was some particles on the sword. Kind of just used some similar particles. The real cool thing here was the smoke, the animated particle smoke. And what else was there? Oh, I put on, so this is kind of a combination of effects that I'm adding right here. It's lens flares. That's ultimately what it adds up to. It's built into After Effects. I just reposition them. Yeah, so it's little stuff like that that just really made it look cool. The particles took me at least 20 or 30 minutes to fidget around with particular, and you can use world particles. There's like a whole bunch of different particle things you can use for After Effects. It's ultimately trial and error. You just kind of play around until you get something you like. Alright, so this is a scene I'll go over right here. So this is the scene where Link is fighting the Octorks and that water monster over there. There's more than meets the eye here, so I'm going to use some pre-existing tricks for this that you already seen. So we're going to do the linear color key to remove the ground and all of that all of that tan color. We're going to add a drop shadow to add some depth to our characters. And why isn't this coming up? Oh, there we go. So there's the sand. As you can see, it kind of extends into the bushes too. It literally takes all of that color out. If Link's skin color was that same color, it would take that out and it would ruin the effect altogether. But it didn't, so it worked out great. Alright, so there was some more stuff that kind of met the eye here. You see the water. Let's take a look at the water. We're going from just some blue, purplish with some dots in it to, look at this. It actually waves. I took a water texture off the internet. What kind of effect did I apply to it? I applied some sort of blending effect. We'll see real quick. It was soft light. So what that's doing is it's taking this water. We're going from looking like that. That's what the water texture looked like. Now if we put the soft light, it goes to that. And then I took the liquefy tool, which lets you kind of distort a surface or a picture, and I just animated it. I turned on the animation and did it at different points, and it kind of moves, kind of subtly, kind of not subtly. And I did that same trick for, where am I? I did that same trick. So yeah, that's how the water was done ultimately. Now we get into the really cool stuff right here, you guys. So I'm gonna jump over to, so this is the simple scene, or a simple part of the map. You're in there, you're fighting some skeletons. Let's break down the effects, because this ultimately looked cool. So we turned on a color range for blue, that color blue. That made a big hole in the map. We then took the water texture, extended it out, animated it just like we did in the other scenes, and boom! We got water. Alright, it looks kind of flat though, I said to myself. So I turned on the drop shadow. Whoa! That is insane! Now we got those like soft edges that just look cool. That didn't add the drop shadow for Link and the entities though. So what I did, I used a tool called the color range that kind of lets you select different colors that you want to remove from that layer. And I just removed everything except Link and the skeletons ultimately. And then added the drop shadow. And that gave them that sort of drop shadow stuff. The drop shadow stuff. What kind of way is that to describe something? I don't know, you guys. Alright, anyways. This is where it gets cool. So I made everything else a 3D layer. Now, a 3D layer in Adobe After Effects, it lets you apply lights to them. You can have shadows and whatnot. Ultimately, though, you got 2D surfaces. You're working with a 2D surface. Everything, you're stripping a video of its components and building different layers on top of that video so that they can each be handled in different ways. So what I did right here is I took all the different layers and I put them a little bit above each other, a little bit below, so the water is a little bit below, Link is a little bit above the ground. I added a 3D light and I put it kind of in the middle of the scene. That's the style, it was a style choice I decided to go with. Since there's a light there and different layers at different points, I turned on the shadows, boom. We have real shadows going on right now. I don't even need the drop shadow. I dropped the drop shadow at a certain point in developing this video and just used real shadows. There was one other thing I was really tempted to do, and because it's this and then the ground, you got Link and then the ground, you can see already how the light above is casting the shadow down onto my hand. Now if I make this like that, ultimately it's going to cast a shadow, a longer shadow. So if I would have taken Link's layer, duplicated it from this, rotated it up, and made it while he's moving, I ultimately could have had some pretty sick shadows, like shadows that messed around with the geometry of the map. Even though, keep in mind, this is all a video. It's all a video, not a game. I can't program any of this. It's all post-production. You could see that the hood was pretty messed up too. It was affected by the light. So what I did to solve that is I duplicated the layer and cropped it to just the hood. So the hood is a standalone thing by itself. Pretty much how I did every single room in here. Now we'll go to something like here, the boss fight. This was a really cool thing. You guys, you know, I enabled the shadows, the drop shadows and whatnot. We added the lights. So there's the light. And as we go on, there's another light though. You get into this room and the room turns green. What I did is I used hue. I changed the hue of the room. It didn't change the hue of any of the characters because... Actually, did I use the hue? Huh. Did I? Yes, I did. Did I? No, I did not. Ah, man. Yes, I did. Did I? I don't know, you guys. Let's see what the light does. I either used the light or I used hue and saturation for this whole ordeal. I guess we'll find out. So there's the drop shadow. You can see me stripping the layers apart. Huh. I guess ultimately I used a light. That's what I did. Oh, I know what I did. Feel dumb. So I made one light. Now one light was that blue light that you see in every other dungeon room. And then I created another light. Now that other light was green. Okay. And then I kind of had them fade together when you entered the room. That's why it turns light blue for a second. And then you get the green. That was another style choice. So he's all shooting his fireballs and stuff. I at one point had light added to the fireballs so that there was dynamic lighting, but I scrapped that. It was too resource intensive, too much time. So he's going, he's fighting, he gets the heart. He goes into this room. It fades black, and then the room is gold. That's where I use that hue and saturation. I added a light, an actual light onto the Triforce with some really cool particles. It looked awesome, you guys. And it created this like atmosphere in the room that I was really aiming for. So that was so cool, you guys. And then it zooms into him and it ends the video and tells you all about how there's going to be a realistic Pokemon video coming up. So that's the effects, guys. That's how it was done. Lots of time, lots of sound effects, and then that's how the visual effects were kind of broken down into. Alright guys, well, that's how it was done. Yeah, you know, I appreciate you if you guys stayed this long to hear me ramble on about how I made a freaking video. You know, if you got something out of this, that is really cool. I really hope somebody can get something out of this, or even if you thought it was entertaining, that's really ultimately what I want. I want you guys to either learn something or at least enjoyed what you've seen. Most importantly, I hope you guys enjoyed the actual video I made. And if you haven't and you're just watching this, well, that's weird. But anyways, guys, like it up, subscribe it up, and I will see all of you in the future with more content. Peace.